All right, we're here. We're ready to go. We're revved up. The engine's running. It's time for another preview of the weekend that
Yes.
belongs to MMA, and it really belongs to the UFC. Dominic, once again,
Uh-huh.
UFC 275, the fourth ever UFC event out of Singapore, the first on ESPN Plus pay-per-view.
Look at these stats.
We got two title fights on this card, along with a highly anticipated rematch between the best women's fight of all time. They're running it back. It's only 3 rounds, but it should be fireworks. Joanna Weili Zhang, along with a host of other great fights. Before we just hop right in, Dominic, I do want to ask you, I believe as we're recording this Wednesday, we are a couple hours away from tip-off of Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and Golden State Warriors. Series tied 1-1. Very fun games so far, even if both have turned into blowouts by the end.
Yeah.
I'm curious, who do you have winning the whole series and how many games? I know it's a little cheating because we're already 2 games in, but I'm curious.
That's a great question. I mean, really, it's not too bad cheating, right? One apiece. It's basically now it's the first to 3, instead of the first to 4. There's something about a Game 7 that always just feels special, So I would like to see it go Game 7. Who do I think takes it, though? I feel like even though the Warriors and Golden State have had that big bounce back year, after the dull season last year, the injuries with Klay Thompson and whatnot, I feel like it may just be Boston's chance to get back to what they once were. Jason Tatum get his chance to get that first ring. And, that star-studded cast they have, a lot of just phenomenal role players, and he's leading the charge. I'm going to have to go Boston in 7 right now.
What's interesting about both these teams is I think they pride themselves on their role players. When you look at both sides, I mean, Jason Tatum had kind of an iffy Game 1, but then you have guys like Al Horford stepping up. And, well, who am I forgetting? I mean, Marcus Smart's been big for them, but I'm thinking of like role players like.
Jaylen Brown's still a great player.
Well, he's like a star player. Like, who's that white guy that shoots all threes for him?
Boy.
He was a rookie. Peyton, it's Peyton something.
Peyton Manning.
Okay, well, Dom's a Clippers fan, so he probably doesn't watch much competitive basketball because they're not a very competitive team. But anyways.
That was good.
Yeah, the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, where you at? You know what I mean?
Non-existent.
Now, on Golden State's then you got like the son of Gary Payton the second. That guy from Michigan that shot like a half-court shot last game. I forget his name now.
Wait, Draymond Green?
From Michigan.
No, that was Michigan State. Sorry. Yeah, Michigan State.
Oh, he had a half-court shot last game. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but
we're,
I don't
we're
know
obviously
what you're talking about.
we're obviously MMA guys. I forgot. I'm talking to a guy that used to ball in high school. I mean, yeah, he played like 2 minutes a game, but I figured he'd know a little bit about it.
It was a great 2 minutes, too.
It really was.
I'll give you the best 2 minutes of your life.
I'm going to actually double down with you, Dom. Well, I'm going to bypass what you just said, and I'm going to say I'm also going Game 7, but I think the Warriors take it because it'll be at home for them. So I think they'll.
That's true.
Take it. I think they'll take it in Golden State, Game 7. I think it's the last hurrah. Steph Curry's still elite, but Klay Thompson's not quite the same from his like 2-year layoff. Draymond Green still, big. He has a big impact on the game, obviously in like ways outside of just scoring, but he seems to be slowing down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of the last hurrah for that trio, and Boston will be back. That's what I'll say. So Boston fans, please don't, send me death threats. I don't know.
Hey, way back in the day, like those were your boys, right? The original Big Three. I remember those days.
The team that got me into basketball was the Big Three Celtics. Rajon Rondo, though, was the guy that I really was a fan of. I was a big Rajon Rondo fan. So it doesn't give me any pleasure, even though I don't really consider myself a Celtics fan. But Golden State, I have money on them to win also, so maybe that plays a part in it. But
we love a little betting bias every now and then.
Yeah. So you guys aren't here for basketball. You're here for MMA. You're here for UFC 275. So we're just going to hop right in. The main event, Dominic, of UFC 275. The light heavyweight title is on the line. Glover Teixeira, coming off his miraculous late in his career title victory at UFC 267 in Abu Dhabi. He's looking to make a first title defense here and make a title reign. He's not looking to just be a flash in the pan. He is, though, an underdog in this bout. Plus 170 is the sitting champion. And he's taken on one of the most interesting characters in the UFC, a modern-day samurai. He's got a hairstyle that feels like he was around in 3022, not 2022. Jiri Prochazka, minus 200 as we sit here today, Dominic. I think these odds might be a little skewed, maybe just a little too much. Mm-hmm. Now, we'll talk about that, but I got to get your thoughts here on the matchup first. Glover Teixeira, we all know I guess it was one of the thrill and the agony, right? It was one of the bigger thrill moments of 2021. Mm-hmm. One of those moments that it just makes you proud to be a fan of the sport, to see a guy like Glover Teixeira, who's been around for so long, get that unexpected title win at the age of, he's 40, isn't he?
He was 41 when he won it. He's 42 now, making the defense.
Okay. So, with that, here he is looking to defend that title against Jiri Prochazka, who is a much younger, much more athletic, maybe some would say more dangerous of the two here. But my question for you to start is, what made Glover Teixeira not just win the title, but dominate the champion at the time, Jan Blachowicz? And what can he do here to replicate that performance?
Yeah, that's a great question, because like Jiri and Jan are so different too, and just the way that they move about the cage. But it's always, especially like we're looking at Glover again, he's 42. This guy's tallied off 6 straight wins to get back to where he is right now with that title around his waist. And I think he's just used his veteran expertise at the end of the day. This guy's been there. He's done that. He's got 40 professional fights, 21 fights inside of the UFC, and he's always been in there with the best of the best. He's seen it all, Noah. So no matter how much of a wild man that Jiri is, more than likely, no matter what he does Saturday, Glover's probably seen that before, unless he pulls off another spinning back elbow or some crazy shit. But I think that's what it is, the experience, the ability for him to stay composed in tough situations, because we've seen him down in some of these fights, even like the Anthony Smith fight, the Thiago Santos fight, even in a little bit of the first round with Jan Blachowicz, nothing crazy, but still, just he turns these tides, and once he flips the switch, then it's over. He is essentially able to force his opponents to wilt under his pressure, and most of these 6 fights that he's won have been via finish as well, so that's just another feather into the cap of this miraculous run. So that's what it comes down to for me. The composure, being able to get out of sticky situations. And again, once he makes those adjustments, you're likely going to be on the losing side of that fight, whether it be a decision or a finish. He's just so experienced, man. And it's a big factor in this fight as well.
Yeah, Glover does have the most finishes in light heavyweight history for the UFC, by the way. So obviously a guy who doesn't go to the scorecards near as much as you might think on paper. Now, I do agree with you that the intangibles for Glover Teixeira have to play a factor. I mean, he's such a veteran. He's seen it all. He's got a lot of history of fighting. I mean, he's been doing it for such a long time. He's been very active, so he's still remaining very competitive and still just all in. He's still he's not very committed to this end of the road. Yes, in interviews he might say, I think I have a couple left or one left, or when I lose the title, I'm done. Whatever he might say, that's not really how he's training, though. He's very much still in form of I'm sure he's adapted, but in a lot of ways, it's very similar to how he was 10 years ago. He's just very committed to what he does. Now, I'm going to disagree with you in one part, and that's that I don't necessarily think that his key to victory is those intangibles. I think Jiri Prochazka is so good at this point, I think we forget that he also possesses a lot of those same intangibles. I mean, yes, he's much younger and does not have as many fights as Glover, but he still has over 30 fights, Dom, and most of those before the UFC being for a promotion like Ryzen, which is one of the better promotions outside of the UFC if you're looking at talent. So Jiri Prochazka has been fighting elite talent for a long time, even though this is only his third fight in the UFC. I do think that when you look at what Glover has been excelling at this point in his career, he is slower. He doesn't quite pack the punch as far as one-shot power that he used to. But Dominick, if he can get you to the ground, drag you down, and land some ground and pound, there's not too many better than him at that. No. And Jiri Prochazka, in some ways, is very untested in that aspect of his game, at least with the best of the best in the UFC. Jiri Prochazka's 2 fights before this coming against Volkan Oezdemir and Dominick Reyes, 2 very good fighters, but not fighters that implemented that kind of game plan.
Right.
Yuri's a wild man, an absolute wild man, Dom. I mean, he's so unpredictable, and we can kind of transition into his keys to victory here, but I think that unpredictability will give a guy like, we were just saying, like a Glover Teixeira, like a Jan Blachowicz, who maybe depend on those intangibles. He can give guys like that fits because he's so unpredictable. He doesn't seem to do the same thing twice or put the same combination of factors together. So it's hard to get a lot of reads on the guy. But
yes.
A lot of people, it's hard to – it's easy to like Jiri Prochazka. It's easy to buy into him as a title challenger, as a champion. That he's an elite light heavyweight, Dom. But what I'm having trouble doing is believing that this guy can have this style and make a firm title run out of it. I think he's elite. I think he's all those things. But I also think he's firmly capable of losing a fight because he puts himself into a lot of danger, into a lot of openings. He takes shots to give shots. That makes him, susceptible to a guy like Glover, who is so aware of some of his own limitations that he fights maybe safer and more smart than a guy like Jiri Prochazka fights.
Oh, yeah, very much so. I mean, Jiri is the definition of kill or be killed when he gets inside of the cage. We've talked about how he can just enter with reckless abandon. Yes, he's so dynamic. He's so powerful. He's very light on his feet. He's just a freak athlete, really. The way he's built and all of his abilities physically are insane. But it is just... I would love in this fight to see some sort of middle ground for Jiri. Because, one, I do think we're going to see him potentially have to fight off takedowns, fight off the ground game, which would be something worth noting for his future, of course, if he can or cannot do that. But even when it is on the feet, I mean, let us not forget, Glover Teixeira is an incredible boxer in his own right. Yes, No already said he doesn't have the one-shot power anymore, but he puts together crisp, technical combinations, and Jiri likes to get hit. Well, he probably doesn't like to get hit. He's not afraid to get hit. But a mindset like that going into a title fight, that just can't be successful in my opinion. So I think if we can just see a Jiri that's still aggressive, still willing to go in for the kill, but then pull it back and just kind of analyze a little bit more what his opponent's doing, that could be a very, very dangerous Jiri Prochazka. It's just a matter of, will we see it? Because this is his biggest test yet right here.
Well, you don't think that style can be successful in a title fight? I think it definitely can be successful. I mean, look at how much success he's had in his first 2 fights. He got 2 knockout finishes of former title challengers. I mean, of course it can be successful. He could be completely unpredictable and knock out Glover Teixeira in a couple minutes. But what I think the word I would use instead of successful, you're saying that style can't work in a title fight. I think it's not sustainable. I think if you string that together over the course of a few fights, again, it worked against Volkan. He took some shots. Dominick Reyes looked like he had the upper hand.
Flash KO'd him.
Yep, flash KO'd him, but he still ended up with one of the best knockouts of the year. Is this where the luck runs out? Or, luck, proverbial luck, but you get what I'm saying. Right. Is this where it runs out? Is this where he runs into a test that's too polished, too just skilled for him at this point in his career? That's a good question. I can't wait to have that answered. And Dominic, I wonder if there's any other factors to this fight. Some of what we're addressing is maybe things you would see on some of your other podcasts or shows that you're watching in the lead up to this card. Maybe a lot of these factors are already well known. Glover's age, Jiri's unpredictability. How about Jiri's relative inactivity? This is
very true.
He's been in the UFC. I mean, I don't know the exact time he got signed. His first fight was in July of 2020.
Yep.
This is his third fight, and we're in June of 2022. He's literally had one fight every year since he's been around. Do you think, while Glover, even at his age, has remained very active? Yes, there was a gap between him. I guess it was when he beat Anthony Smith till the Jan fight?
He waited for when Izzy and Jan fought. He kind of waited for the winner of that, basically.
Because he was the one that kind of got screwed over in that whole ordeal. But it was like a year or so between. So, point is that I would say that Glover, whether he had a gap or not till he won the belt, he fought in last October. October. So, do you think that the inactivity, relatively speaking, of Jiri Prochazka is a hindrance to his chances here, or do you think it actually benefits a guy who takes a lot of punishment to take that kind of time off to recover?
When you look at a fight like he had with Reyes, I think it can definitely be beneficial. If this were Glover, one fight a year at 40, 41, 42, more cause for concern. Jiri, right there in his prime, 29 years old, like you said, takes a lot of damage. Before the UFC, was pretty active in Ryzen, had a ton of fights there, was a champion, as we know. So I would say, while it's worth noting, I think, especially like if he comes in there and just looks super off and rusty, I mean, of course, it could always go to Glover depending on like what he does. But I'm not too concerned about it, but it's something to have like in the back of the head if he comes out and just looks like a shell of himself. But I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about this fight a little bit more when we get to some of the betting stuff at the end, but we're going to move on to the co-main event, Dominic. So the women's flyweight title is on the line. The queen of the division, Valentina Shevchenko, the ruler, the second ever champion in this division. She's held the title since, I believe, 2017. Maybe it was early 2018. She's held the belt for a long time, people.
Yeah.
She is looking to make, I don't know how many title defenses this would make for her.
This would be her seventh if she wins.
Yeah, so seventh. That's a lot. Trying to make her seventh title defense, and it's against Taila Santos, who's now ranked the number 4 in the division. So, Dominic, we've done this same song and dance a few times before with Valentina. Every time we with Andrade we gave a little respect, but then like with Lauren Murphy, I mean, my God, Lauren Murphy, if I ever see her on the street, I'm running. Because that woman's probably going to have not very nice things to say to me. Here with Taila Santos, I think the general public sort of has this inevitable feeling again that like Taila Santos kind of popped. She kind of rose very quickly. She's been very active. She rose very quickly through the ranks. I think this title shot's deserved and earned, but it's worth noting that I think a lot of the common fans, maybe the people that aren't quite as hardcore as like we are, that maybe they don't watch every week necessarily, but they're still like above a casual fan. They might still be kind of like, who's this Taila Santos again? Like, because she's kind of it's kind of happened under our noses a little bit. I mean, we've been very aware of it. Yeah. But she's here now. She's here in a title fight opportunity. Valentina Shevchenko a minus 630, which is massive. But I will note, second best odds, or the second lowest odds for Valentina Shevchenko in her title defenses. I think with Andrade, she was like a minus 400 or something. But here she's a minus 630. I'm actually going to use that to start our discussion, even though I know betting's not really meant to paint this kind of picture. But is that an accurate representation of this fight, to your opinion, Dom? Valentina Shevchenko, a deserved heavy favorite due to, obviously, the resume and the level she's fighting at. But is Taila Santos one of the more credible opponents that Valentina has been put up against in her entire run?
So, in terms of those odds, I do think it's reasonable. It's crazy. Minus 630. Yeah, it's reasonable. It makes sense. Listen, when you've made 6 title defenses, when you've lost 1 round in like your last 10 fights, it makes sense that you're a minus 630 favorite. But on the other side of that coin there, that question about Taila, is she deserving? Can she pose a threat? This whole narrative on paper, of course, I want to say yes because she's 19-1. She's in her prime, 28 years old. She is beating good competition. She just submitted Joanne Wood in the first round back in November. She is a very good talent, but there are just levels to this game, and Valentina has proved it time and time again. So as much as I want to say, sprinkle on the plus 450 for shits and giggles, don't do that, people. I don't think that you can do it. I think Valentina Shevchenko is one of the best fighters in the world right now. I think she's one of the best fighters we've ever seen in UFC history, and I think she goes out there again and does what she does best. Taila Santos, again, listen, what we saw in December, Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes, after that, it scarred Noah for the rest of his life. Anything's possible in this game. It is. But it's just when someone is as close to perfect as Valentina is, you could put her up against anyone, and I would still favor her. It's crazy, man.
I definitely agree with what you're saying, but I am going to play a little devil's advocate here because,
of course,
I don't get too many opportunities like this, Dom. I mean, like I said, Lauren Murphy, she's coming at me. It's on sight if Lauren Murphy ever sees me in the street.
Yes.
Probably even though, you would think the tie enough for her to get her off my back. Hey, you motherfucker, come here. Keep her to head with that damn title belt. Why I'm going to do the devil's advocate thing is because I actually do like Taila Santos. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Everything you just said kind of adds into it. She's 19-1. She's obviously in her prime. She's looking great. Even though, yes, like Joanne Wood being kind of the win that earned her this shot may not feel like much now. Joanne Wood's a tough opponent, man. She always is never really an easy out for most people in the division. Taila made it look pretty easy. I think before that, Taila had manhandled Roxanne Modafferi.
Yep.
Taila really did earn her stripes. She really worked her way up. She got each matchup was a step ahead. It was to answer a certain question, and she's done it. And she's not only been really good at getting fights to the ground and dominating her opponents there, but she's getting finishes too, which is something worth noting in this division, I think. And I do think, Dominic, that for Valentina Shevchenko, she's the best fighter in the world. I mean, there's no doubting that. She's the best women's fighter in the world. Sorry, let me rephrase. I mean, she might even be the best fighter.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah.
There's definitely an argument for it. And yes, Juliana Pena's victory in December, it's kind of just made me it scrambled my brains. It literally turned them into scrambled eggs. I mean, that's just all you can really say about it. This fight, if Taila Santos won, as I hit my laptop,
I was about to say, it got a little shaky there.
It would be 10 times less surprising to me than Juliana Pena beating Amanda Nunes.
I like that.
Juliana Pena did it. She earned it. She won clearly. But I was, again, to this point, I'm sitting here in June. 6 months have passed. There are people who had sex the night of UFC 269 who are getting close to the delivering of a baby.
Yes.
And I'm still in shock at that performance.
Right. You're so good at painting the picture, Noah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I would not have that same feeling with Taila Santos. I think Valentina is still I think she's more skilled. I think she should win this fight. This shouldn't be the person to knock her off. But I will just say, again, just to throw something out there, Valentina has started talking about the whole moving up a weight class, these super fights with Juliana, who she has already beat, actually, when she was at bantamweight. Talked about the Nunes fight, all that stuff. For the last couple of years, Dominic, anytime they were to ask Valentina about that, because remember, we were not we were not very big on her and Nunes having a third fight, but it seemed like everybody else in the MMA media and on Twitter, everybody else seemed to want it for some reason. So they would ask her about it a lot. And for the last 2 years, she wouldn't commit to it. She would be like, no, I'm wanting to continue my run at women's flyweight, and the next challenger up is the next challenger up. That's what she's been saying. That's why some of these fights have taken place, like a Lauren Murphy getting a title fight and whatnot, because that's the next woman up.
Yep.
Could any of that, in your opinion, because I know you're standing firm that you think Valentina's going to win this fight, but when you've watched some of that as it's transpired through the last couple months, has it put any sort of doubt in your mind? Like, how committed is she to this test? Taila Santos, is she taking it serious?
Man, I would like to say that it hasn't really deterred me a little, or any, I should say. Obviously, it's always worth noting. We've talked about this a few times on here about when champions are talking about moving up and so on and so forth. But man, Valentina just feels like when it's time to like facet in and get ready for a fight, she just seems so laser focused on like her path to victory, her game plan. She's so just strategic and so intelligent when she's in the cage. I would be doing myself a disservice if I said I think it did play a factor. But you mentioning it, at least those out there that aren't, maybe aware of the narrative, is definitely worth bringing up for sure.
Hey man, I like to slip in those narratives.
Yeah.
MMA, boxing, any promotion, hire me. I'm available. Now, well, again, more on this fight later. We got some betting stuff. But Dominic, when we needed them most, they returned.
That's
the
right.
fight that sent us into the pandemic age of the UFC.
Yeah, it did.
That's a little bit of, well, it's a little bit, I'm making it a little bit of revisionist history here. I mean, technically the main event of that card was Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. But
that fight didn't happen.
The victors get to write the history books, damn it. So here we go. The co-main event of UFC 248, women's strawweight title, Zhang Weili coming off of her emphatic title win against Jessica Andrade in China. She's now like the China golden goose for the UFC. They're like, all right, we are going to build this girl up to be a star. She's got the power. She's got the athleticism, talent. She's got some character to her, She can't speak English. She's great. So they put her up against another former champion, Joanna Jedrzejczyk, who's looking to get back on track. They give Joanna a title fight. Joanna, probably still, even with the losses to Rose, probably the best women's strawweight of all time if you go off of the resume. She's got so many more. She's got more title defenses, like you made note of not too long ago. She has more title defenses than every other champion has combined since then. So she's a beast, right? So they get matched up. Co-main event, UFC 248. Dominic, it ends up being the best women's fight of all time. Slight controversy, but I think the fight was so good that people kind of overlooked it.
Yeah.
Not everybody agreed with the winner here.
Of course.
Zhang Weili gets the nod. She gets her hand raised, belt wrapped around her waist. Joanna looking like Megamind, disappointed. Fast forward, here we are. We had a whole ass COVID that came through.
Yeah.
The time it took to get this rematch. Just look at all these names I'm painting over here.
I know.
I'm Picasso with the right hand and Bob Ross with the left. I'm just doing nothing but painting pretty pictures out here.
That's right.
So here we are, June 2022. They're finally going to run it back. It's only 3 rounds.
Unfortunately.
But now Zhang Weili lost her title to Rose. Lost in an immediate rematch to Rose in a close 5-rounder. Joanna has not fought since that fateful UFC 248 card. I got to know your thoughts, Dominic. What's pulling at you in this matchup? How did you score the first fight, and how do you think these two taking their routes, which I understand it. Don't feel like you have to give too much of an answer to that, because we probably that fight we haven't watched.
That could change by the day, though, too.
But I'm curious what elements are grabbing at you here, because these two went coming off of that amazing fight. They went in like completely different directions. Weili kept fighting. Yes, she took a layoff because it was a beating that they put on each other. But she lost the title. She fought again for the title, loses again. Joanna has not fought since then and has seemed to kind of have one foot out the door with the whole fight game. You know, she's Instagram modeling and not too bad, I guess. But I want to get some of your what's pulling at you with this fight. What elements?
I need to preface first and foremost that if you're coming into this fight with expectations that it's gonna did what they did in March of 2020, stop.
Boo!
Stop.
Boo! Now, boo Dom off the stage. Boo! I want everybody to think this fight's gonna be even better than the first one. You know? No, I'm just kidding. That would be the worst thing to do, is to say that.
But that's not to say it won't be a great fight still, and I am expecting a great fight regardless. I do wish it was 5 rounds again because they deserve it. Dana White even went out and said, this is the #1 contender fight. The winner will fight Carla. Poor Marina Rodriguez just getting pushed to the wayside. Damn it, Dana. But anyways, this is the fight, right? This is the rematch. Joanna been out, has not fought since March of 2020. Zhang Weili hasn't won a fight since March of 2020. There's so many narratives here. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. And I'm still a believer in Joanna because she's one of the most elite women's fighters we've ever seen inside the UFC. But Zhang Weili has showed that although she is on a 2-fight skid, right, that rematch that she had with Rose, very close, split decision, could have went her way, right, and not been surprised. She's putting more, what am I looking for? Tools in the toolbox. You know, she's showing off some grappling now. She's fighting with a little bit more composure. She's not just bull rushing like she did against Joanna, like she did against Jessica Andrade to win the belt. Not that she didn't fight technically against Joanna, but when you're fighting a fight like that, it's going to get a little nasty at times. But I just think this is such a great fight. It is coming at such a perfect time, as Noah said, because this division, while it is good, it's probably the most full, the most stacked, quote-unquote, women's division. At the top, it just seems kind of meh, you know, after that title fight that we had. It's just meh. But this is going to add some fresh life, even though it's two similar faces. I'm very excited for it. I think Joanna, you know, like you said, she has hinted at retirement a little bit. We'll go on.
Oh, no.
Okay.
You just said you meant to say two familiar faces, but you said two similar faces.
Similar. Hey, they're synonyms. They're synonyms.
I don't know. No, it's not. But they're not synonyms, but that's just funny, I thought.
Oh, I'm glad I can give you a laugh, a chuckle. But anyway, I'm just looking forward to this fight. I think Joanna's still elite, regardless of the 2-year layoff. I know Zhang Weili is still elite. But no, we're talking here, if she loses, that's 3 fights in a row. Yes, albeit to the elite of the elite. But it's hard to get back after 3 straight losses. Joanna, after a layoff, can she bounce back at all? She's kind of been off and on in those. When she lost the belt to Rose, it was kind of win one, lose one. So I'm very much excited for this fight. This is the fight I'm looking forward to most on the whole card.
Wow, that's big praise. Big praise.
Yep.
If it was 5 rounds, I'd probably agree. And again, who knows
fair.
if it even needs 5 rounds. I do think the 3 rounds kind of just takes a little bit of the wind out of the sails. Not a lot.
It does.
But just enough to where like the main event's probably the fight that I'm most excited for. I mean, come on. You have a lot to live up to if you're overshadowing a title fight. You know what I mean?
Right.
So no love lost there. But this fight is awesome. I'm very excited that we're getting it. 5-round part aside, that little kind of pet peeve or whatever nitpick I have. It's just it's a very competitive fight still. I mean,
Yes.
Look at what these two did to each other the first time. It was razor thin close.
Mm-hmm.
And they went in just such different directions, Dom. Like you said, you painted it even better than me. That's the last time Weili won.
Yeah.
Last time Joanna fought, they both took different directions. Weili tried to be that champion, tried to continue a reign of terror, and it got cut short. It got cut in like a minute by Rose Namajunas with the head kick. A fate that Joanna had felt in her own title.
Yes.
Ending by the hands of Thug Rose. And then Weili tried to get right back on that horse and loses that immediate rematch. 5 rounds, a very close fight in its own right. Rose gets the nod, though. Joanna, again, like I said, been kind of non-committal to the fight game. She even got taken out of the rankings not that long ago.
Yeah.
And due to inactivity or whatever, she's been very persistent on this idea. You know, this whole time we all thought after that loss, we're like, there's no way that, like, Joanna's going to get another title fight. Like, she needs to come back and get on a win streak, and then we can talk about that again. But in all of our interviews, it was always, I want to fight Weili or Rose. That's it, really.
Yep.
Well, Weili, she's been moved from the throne, so now's the opportunity for these two to be matched up with one another. I couldn't be more excited to see Joanna back in the octagon and for Weili to be back as well. And I just think that I actually think that even though, yes, with a loss, it would be, you know, terrible for Weili to have a 3-fight losing streak, but she's so massive, you know, if you go over to China, and she's just such a top-level fighter in this division. I don't even know if it's going to hurt her that much, Dom, especially if this ends up being like a 3-round banger of a fight. It's, to me, I don't know if anybody can really lose here. I mean, yes, you can, but, like, I just think this is a fight where I'm ready to celebrate the winner of this fight, and the loser, it's just like, all right, take your time, and we'll see you here in a few months. Like, the winner of this fight, I'm just ready to celebrate and say they're next for Carlos Esparza.
I like that. And no, I want to ask one more question before we move on. And I know we talk about our bets at the end of the show, but just a quick betting question. What do you actually make of the odds being Zhang Weili minus 165, Joanna on the comeback plus 145, even though that first fight was literally flip a coin and see who wins? What do you think about that 2 years removed being that kind of, I mean, that's almost 2-1 for Zhang Weili.
Yeah, I guess it is sort of close to that. I think these are perfect.
Okay.
And here's why. I know you're asking me because you are on the opposite. But the reason why I think these are probably perfect is because I personally thought, now I haven't watched the fight in a long time, but I did personally think Zhang Weili won the first fight.
Yes.
Just ever so slightly, again, but, you know, now with all the scoring criteria mess that's out there, who knows, maybe I didn't score to fight for her. But that's not even really the big reason why I think these odds are justified. So I know Zhang Weili hasn't won since that fight, but if you look at the second fight with Rose Namajunas, I mean, she's still elite
for
in
sure.
this division. She doesn't look like she's missed a step. She doesn't look compromised from this very war with Joanna she had the first time. You know, those kind of fights, they can do something to a fighter. Like, you look at Rory McDonald and the rematch with Robbie. Rory was just never really the same after that. He's still very good, but just something was always missing. With Weili, I don't feel like that's the case.
Yep.
Yeah, she got caught in the first fight. Second fight, though, she looked like is still adding things to her game. She's not just who she is here. Might be completely not different, but might have even more wrinkles than the last time out.
Yep.
The big reason why I think these odds are fair, accurate, the layoff for Joanna. And not just the layoff, Dom, but it's the non-committal to her career.
Yeah.
And I understand it. Like, again, she has made a lot of money. She's been a champion. She's fought in all these big fights. She's good. She can go on all these vacations and celebrate and not have to worry about, you know, the things that some of us have to worry about in life. Good for her. She earned it.
Yep.
But it was, from a lot of accounts, she wasn't in the gym all that much, you know, the last couple of years. It's, you know, she's very much been kind of a 1 foot out the door fighter.
Yeah.
Now, do I believe that she's been very committed to a training camp for this fight? Yes, of course. I think she's back on the horse, and I think she wants to get this win, but I do think she would like to get her title back as well. I don't think that she's just here for not here for a long time, but here for a good time. I think she's committed to trying to make another run out of this. But I do think that could be a good thing for her to take that layoff. You know, she took a beating against Weili again. The head, people, Megamind. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was bad.
But it could also ring rust could become a factor here. And in a 3-round fight, it's going to be harder for her to have to ease in if that's something she has to do. If she's going to be a slow starter, in a 5-round fight, you can get away with that a little bit easier than you can in a 3-round fight.
Yep, love that point. Love it.
Anything you want to say about the betting odds, or do you want to save it for...
I mean, I'll save most of my thoughts for the end. I mean, I'm a little surprised it's that steep. I mean, again, it's not like an absolutely just sloshing of the lines. I figured, I don't know, like maybe like a minus 130 or so for Zhang. Okay. So there's more value on Joanna's side than what I anticipated when they announced the fight is all.
I will say if they really increased it for Weili at all, then it starts getting a little more surprising.
Like that for you,
like a minus 180, I'd probably be like, oh wow, really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fair.
Again, more on this whole card coming up, people. Stay tuned.
Yes.
But we do have to talk about just a few little things for fight announcements here. Not been a lot of news going on. It's been kind of a theme as of late. But luckily, we're here for a pay-per-view, so it feels like things are just popping, left and right. But as far as for the fight announcements, we do got a pretty disappointing one for the 6th time since he lost in a title fight in 2020. Alex Perez is in a canceled bout.
That's all we talk about.
Canceled. Oh, done.
Not moved, not rescheduled. Crazy.
They said it's unclear if Alex Perez is going to, and Marcel's the one that I tweeted this, by the way.
Shout out Marcel.
Alex Perez, so it's Askarov who's pulling out the fight. Alex Perez, it's unclear if he will remain on the card. This is the UFC's card on Long Island. I don't know.
Either or, I think.
It's an island. I guess you have to be on it, not in it, right?
True.
I don't know.
True.
But this is the 6th fight, Dominic. 2 times with Askarov and 4 times with Matt Schnell of Cars fame. They've tried to make a fight for Perez and it's not been able to get done. I mean, Alex Perez is the first guy to ever fight for a title that came from the Contender Series.
Yes, man. Yeah.
And that title fight was in, I think, November of 2020.
Yep.
And literally here we are almost, a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. The guy hasn't been, he's tried to fight, he can't. And I looked back to see, okay, has he been the one pulling out of these fights or is it the opponent? Well, it's kind of split. He's had it twice. He had the last time out with Schnell, he missed weight.
Oh, yeah.
Not good. Yeah. And then I think the time before that, there was one time before that with Schnell where, I don't know, he had an injury or something. But it's not all his fault. His opponents have had a lot of issues, whether it's injuries or whatever. It's just a shame.
It is.
And Askarov, it feels like his fights fall out quite a bit too, even though we've seen him pretty recently. So I don't know. I want to see this fight get rebooked, but I also would like to see Alex Perez fight on this card still. I just hope those are one of the 2 resolutions here.
Yeah, get Alex Perez someone, man. Shit, if someone gets out of the Bontorin and Manel Kape fight unscathed this weekend, just throw them in Long Island for all I care.
That's a great pitch right there.
Yeah, just get him a fight.
Now, we do have one actual fight announcement, and it's a big one, and I should say that announcement word should be used lightly. It's a fight that's in the works right now. Main event of the August 13th card the UFC is planning with Marlon Vera versus Dominick Cruz. I've seen some mixed reactions on this one. I'm curious what camp you're in on this.
I like everything about it. You sent this in the Twitter group, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really like this. For one, it shows that Dom is done fighting guys that are unranked, and like Casey Kenny and all
more
these.
Casey Kenny's gonna pop up.
Yeah. He's wanting to get back into those elite status, and Marlon Vera, he just earned his way into top 5. So yes, he's fighting back, but like, is he though? It's Dominick Cruz. You know what I mean? So this is still a huge opportunity for him. I think it's a great fight. I think after they went off a spinning back fist, Dana reached out to Robbie and said they're wanting to make this in San Diego, by the way, in California, which is cool. Dominick's from out there in Cali. Marlon Vera trains in California, so that could be a fun little atmosphere out there.
What was the rumored location that Ariel had put out there?
Boston, yeah.
Boston. Classic Dana. Why what the hell would Ariel Helwani know about what we're doing? God, when they said when Robbie said Ariel Helwani reported, I was like, oh, here we go.
He fucked up. Yeah.
I said I'm waiting for Dana to say something, and he was just like very very coy about it. Just turned around. What the hell would Ariel Helwani know about what we're doing?
Yeah.
Just classic. But I'm sorry. Did you have anything else you wanted to say on that? Because
I love the fight. I do.
Yeah. I think this fight's fantastic. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I can see someone being a little disappointed, and I guess if you're like big Marlon Vera guy, you're maybe hoping he gets like a Peter Yan, because if he wins that fight, then
or Sandhagen.
No doubt, no doubt. If he beats one of those two guys, he's probably getting a title fight.
Yeah.
Here with Cruz, you don't know, because again, we have like this mini echelon tournament of guys, or whatever you want to say, going on right now. Aljamain Sterling, the champion. Peter Yan just lost in the title fight with Sterling, and then you got T.J. Dillashaw, Jose Aldo, Corey Sandhagen, Merab Dvalishvili, and then I would put these two guys as the other two in that group. So Dominick Cruz, I think, is being highly disrespected in this matchup.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but when I've been seeing just a lot of chatter about Dominick Cruz, not necessarily all pertaining to this fight. Some of it was from him and TJ, when TJ was saying some of those comments about Cruz. And I saw a lot of the talking heads that I watch, a lot of the shows, people that I highly respect their opinions of, but they were all giving their thoughts, and everybody talks about Cruz like he's not that guy anymore. Like he's not that championship level fighter.
What have we seen to say that?
And I'm like, really? Like, are we really ready to count this guy? Like, are you ready to say that guy's not got another title run in him? Because I'm not. Don't get me wrong, the Casey Kenny fight, relatively close. Like, he's not like, even the Pedro Munoz fight, he took some damage, probably more than. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that he is as good as he was at his best. But I definitely think that he's still an elite level bantamweight. And because of that, I think he's got just as much of a chance to be champion again as like a TJ Dillashaw does.
Absolutely. And let us not forget, Dominick Cruz at his best is arguably the best bantamweight of all time. You know what I mean? So like it's high praise, or it's a very interesting remark to say like he still doesn't have it. I think this is a winnable fight. It could put him right back into top 5, and for all we know, by next year he is fighting for that title again. You just never know. Again, he's not what he was, like Noah said, but he's still elite. It's clear. I don't know how you can't say
it's like saying he's not what he was. Like again, it's like that would be like people still harping on Aldo not being who he was.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but Aldo is literally maybe the best bantamweight in the whole division. We might find that out. It doesn't matter if he's not the king of Rio, the best featherweight in the world anymore. He's still fighting at such a high level. Dominick Cruz, that's what it feels like to me. But a lot of people, I've just been seeing a lot of people kind of writing him off a little bit. And I think this matchup is great. I mean, it's a great fight.
Yeah,
it's going to
main event, right? You said
main
event.
They're planning it to be the main event.
Yeah,
Marlon Vera, I'm loving the run he's on. I'm loving his attitude. Take no shit from anybody. He said Dominick Cruz had been ducking this fight, and now that Vera is ranked in front of him, he's like, "Come on, come get it." Now you want it, and Dominick Cruz does want it. He's ranked number 8. He's kind of on the outside looking in. But I think that a win here for either guy, if they do it the right way, it could get him a title fight. I'm not going to say it will. There's a lot of matchups that need to be made. But this fight has a lot of stakes to it. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to the rest of UFC 275. Starting back on that main card, Dom. Flyweights. I'm glad that they're getting some shine on the main card here. Rogerio Bontorin taking on Manel Kape. That's number 8 versus number 14. Very weird stuff going on with Manel Kape in the last couple months. I don't know if we ever got any actual answers to that. I think I did hear an update to that whole thing with his
you sent
drug
me
miss. There was a drug miss. Basically, what happened? Manel Kape was supposed to fight. Like, was it the last pay-per-view, or was it?
Yeah, it was semi-recently.
Yeah, he was supposed to fight on.
It was supposed to be Sue Monterrey too.
Yes, Monterrey. at the 11th hour, the fight gets pulled. Manel Kape flagged by USADA for one of his samples. I think he's allowed to fight because he's challenging it. Is that because that?
Well, and I also think it's because it's only in Vegas. That's where like the test was, so it's the Vegas Commission,
right.
but he's fighting internationally for this.
Yes, right.
And I think it was kind of a picogram situation. Like I don't think it was some like huge miss, kind of thing.
It's a lot of weird stuff going on, basically.
Yeah.
And it's you guys can say you can look at it however you want. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure knowing how MMA Twitter is, I'm sure everybody will be given the benefit of the doubt, right? Innocent until proven guilty. Anyways. He is here to fight, though. He's fighting Rogerio Bontorin, who's really just kind of a mainstay in this middle of the division at this point. Yeah. A tough out every time out. Manel Kape, a guy, former Ryzen champion, had a lot of hype for guys like us when he came over here. Had a disappointing start to his run. He seems to have put it together, barring no potential layoffs from PED use.
And make weight.
Yep, and making weight. Your thoughts on this fight, Dom?
I love this fight. I do like this fight. Noah and I, as he said, were high on Manel when he came in, faltered. And really, the faltering wasn't even him getting, outclassed by the UFC talent. It was him not pulling the trigger. He was super just lackluster. The loss against Pantoja, a little bit more justifiable. Poor Pantoja guy, just people forget he exists. But then the second fight for Kape was a fight that he should have won, and he just didn't go. When he went, there was success, but he didn't go enough. It was Matheus Nicolau, who's always in split decisions.
Matheus Nicolau.
So, but here, it's a good fight for Manel. He's number 14, looking to crack into the top 10. Bontorin, fun fact that I didn't realize, hasn't won a fight since August of 2019. He's on a 3-fight skid, and then he has a no contest with Matt Schnell. I should have done my research and seen what actually happened in that fight, but I didn't. Don't hold it against me. But regardless, it's a 4-fight winless streak on paper. He's 16-4 though. This is another guy that was from the Contender Series. Good talent, ranked number 8, but just no momentum on his side. And for Manel, it's the opposite. A lot of momentum coming off 2 first-round KO TKOs. He got the weight correct in his last fight too against it was Zumagulov, who we just saw fight last week. So I'm excited for this. I want to really see if Kape can reach the potential that I believe that he has here in this UFC flyweight division.
Agreed. And for what it's worth, I thought Bontorin looked very good in that close decision loss he had to Brandon Royval.
Yes, very close fight. Yes.
So, I think he's been very competitive in all of his losses. So I get what you're saying, though, that the momentum still isn't there. And you don't know mentally what that can do. Just the loss is piling up. You're like, what do I have to do? Do I have to start punching do I have to start walking on my fist and punching with my legs? What do I got to do here? So, great fight there. Also, man, I wonder, do you think Alexandre Pantoja, do you think he has nightmares every night?
Dude, it's so sad.
Turning down that title fight.
I mean, it's tough. We were seeing a guy come into his all, really putting it together, man, stringing together good wins, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
He says not able to take that fight, and you think, okay, well, they'll
give him a month
for the winner.
They're
looking for the winner, and then all of a sudden, so much has went wrong ever since. He hasn't even fought.
I'm looking right now.
He
fought Manel February 21, and then he submitted Brandon Royval in August of 2021, and ain't heard of him since that fight happened that Noah said.
Yeah, because December was when that title fight was supposed to happen.
Yep.
He says that he couldn't make that date. That they ended up pushing that fight back a month anyways. So then Davison, Brandon Moreno trilogy bout, amazing fight. Everybody wants to see it a 4th time. And then you have the rise of Kai Kara France.
Yep.
And now Pantoja's really? And there's an interim title fight, and I'm not.
He's so far away from a title fight right now. It's so sad. It's so sad.
He might have to fight Royval again just to make sure that Royval doesn't skip him. I don't know.
I know. Wait. Perez needs an opponent. Throwing Pantoja while we're waiting? I don't know, man. I don't know if
Pantoja. I don't know if Pantoja wants that, because if you remember, Alex Perez is the guy who fucked up Pantoja with leg kicks.
Leg kicks, yes.
Yeah. So I think Pantoja, if you said that, I think his legs started hurting. He's like, he's watching a show, probably watching a show, and you mentioned him fighting Perez again. His calf just started cramping.
up.
He's like, no say, no bueno, all that.
That's tough.
Next
Anyways.
fight we're going to talk about, opener of the main card. Couple guys getting some shine here. Jack Della Maddalena, better known in these parts as Jackie Moon, as Dominic's been calling him.
Back in action, baby.
You're gone, Jackie Moon! What? Jackie Moon is ejected from the game. What did I say? You said that's my seat. And one lucky fan will go home with a game ball.
That's your head next time.
2-0 in the UFC, taking on Ramazan Emeev of Dagestan claim. Dominic, you've been a big Jack ride or die guy. How do you think he fares here against the Dagestani wrestler Emeev?
I actually really love the matchmaking here from the UFC because Jack was in recency bias a little bit, but the best Contender Series fight that I can recall I've ever watched. If you remember that fight that he had last year on the Contender. Yes, fucking incredible. If you have not seen that fight, you need to go watch it. And then he debuted against Pete Rodriguez, dismantled him in the first round, so easy peasy, right? But now he's getting a guy in Ramazan. He's 5-2 in the UFC, 20-5 overall. He is 35, but this is a guy that isn't going to, I don't think, be willing to stand and bang with Jack. If he is, it's going to be a mistake. But if he goes to grapple, we get to see Maddalena get tested in only his second UFC fight, which I think is needed to happen. I recognize the potential here. He's 25. He's got 10 finishes out of his 11 wins. He's won 11 straight fights. No, he started his professional career 0-2, hasn't looked back since. But I just love that he's getting tested early in his career. What are you made of, kid? I say this a lot lately, but sink or swim. That's what this is here. And if he can come out and shine, they gave him the main card opener for a reason, I believe. We're going to see what he's made of, in my opinion.
Fireworks, hopefully. And
yes.
Following that, Dominic, a couple fights from the prelims.
God, I love this.
Jacob Malkoun, the disciple of Robert the Reaper Whitaker, taking on Brendan Allen. Two guys who have opposite styles here, Dom. You got Jacob Malkoun, 4 decisions in his 6 fights. That's right, he's only used 5-1 in his pro career, as crazy as that is. While Brendan Allen, I believe, has like 5 decisions in like 20, however many fights he has.
Yeah,
I mean, just a very, the ratios are flipped there.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, again, with this matchup, Dominic, we've seen a lot of both these guys. They both have had pretty prominent placements on a lot of like fight night cards. So we've probably followed these two a little closer than most have. How do you evaluate this matchup? Again, clashing styles here, but is there a certain way you're leaning? I mean, the odds tell you that Brendan Allen's the right guy here, but is Malkoun maybe are the dogs barking a little bit here?
Oh, I think there's big potential for an upset, and that pains me to say because I have Brendan Allen when we talk about the bets here in a little bit. But I've loved Brendan Allen ever since he came in from the Contender Series. He's 6-2. You know, those 2 losses that he has are when he's like in different weight classes. Like he had the fight with Sean Strickland that he lost, and then he lost to Chris Curtis. He took that fight on short notice, got knocked out by Chris Curtis. That was an awesome fight too. But like you said, he goes in, he'll get finished or he'll get finishes. He's a very smart fighter. He's getting older. He's putting it together with age. Malkoun, wet blanket. You know what he's going to do every fight. If he gets you down, you likely aren't getting up until the bell rings to go to the next round, and then he's going to do it again in the following round. But Brendan Allen, 10 submission victories. He's no slouch. I don't think he's just going to lay there with Malkoun on top of him. I think this is actually a great test for both guys. Can Allen fend off takedowns? If he's down, can he get up? And for Malkoun, can you get Allen to the ground? And if not, you know, we saw what happened in his debut. He got knocked out in 18 seconds by Philip Hawes. Can you stand on the feet with a guy that is dangerous in Brendan Allen? There's potential for this fight to be a snoozer. I tend to lean on the side that it won't be. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, I'm going to save some of my thoughts for the bet slip, but it's a good fight. Definitely.
Yes.
Last one, Jake Matthews, the Celtic Kid, Haven't seen him in a while, and he's back here to fight one of the bigger stories kind of going.
Of the year.
Yeah, well, okay, let's calm down there, all right? Oscars, he's one of the bigger stories if you're like a guy who watches fight nights every week like we are. I mean, if you're talking about one of the bigger stories in UFC, nobody's talking about Andre Fialho, but...
Fair.
So calm down over there, Speed Racer.
But they should start.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, I think the people who know, it's like if you know, you know. You know
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't know, now whatever. I'm not copywriting. If you
Right.
know, you know kind of thing with Andre Fialho. Dana's loving this guy. They're loving what he's done. He's 2-1 this year. This is his debut year, and he's already fought 3 times. It's going to be his 4th time fighting this year. Very active fighter. He did take that first fight on short notice, making a debut against, who's that big-ass fucker? Michelle Pereira. Who's like...
I just love your description of him.
That big-ass fucking guy who is somehow like 2 years older than us, but he looks like he could be my dad. I mean, just literally...
Yes.
That don't make sense.
Yeah.
But coming off that loss, even though he put up a good fight, he's looked great ever since. Looked really good.
Dangerous.
Yes, dangerous. I mean, I think I lost about $50 betting against him in one night, and just the pain in my face. But regardless, Dominic, this is a very solid matchup, I think. Jake Matthews, he's a weird one for me because I remember in like early 2018 watching him. He was on the main card of a pay-per-view, and he was fighting Li Jingliang, the Leech, right?
Yep.
And that was one of those fights, as much as I love Jing Liang, not a fight that makes him look very good. Because he was like eye gouging and shit in that fight. Not great stuff. But Jake Matthews, ever the professional, just like fighting through it, showing that bit of that Boston spirit, and gets that decision victory. And afterwards having, kind of winning a lot of fans over with the way he talked, the way he acted, the way he fought. And he's kind of never really... I mean, he's not like he's losing a bunch, but it just feels like he's lost a lot of that momentum he had at that time. He's just never really taken the next step.
Yeah.
Now, my question for you, because I think Fialho is the bigger story here. What kind of excitement are you feeling for Fialho? Is it feeling, compare it to like a Hamza, right, where we were just like through the roof, like, can we just wrap the belt around his waist now after he beat John Phillips,
Right.
Where does it compare to like the Hamzat hype that we saw a couple years ago?
I mean, if you put if he wins that fight against Michelle Pereira, we could be talking a little bit closer to it, right? But he's still, regardless, it was a great fight in his debut, and he has 2 first-round knockouts since then, rather quick. I mean, he's fighting once a month essentially right now. Or in June, it's going to be his 4th, pretty damn close, anyways. And again, like, 4 fights already in 2022, debuted for the UFC. He's from UAE Warriors as well. I just have to point this out about Jake Matthews here. Weird career, as Noah already mentioned. He's 17-5, 10-5 in the UFC. He last fought against Sean Brady in March of last year and lost that fight. He got submitted, actually, in that fight. But no, as I'm taking notes, he's only 27, just now entering his prime.
Wow.
He made his UFC debut. This blew my mind. In June of 2014, Noah, he was 19 years old when he debuted inside the UFC. And so, I mean, really, it's just kind of like, when you look at it that way, this is going to be his 8th year in the promotion, his 16th fight, a bit of inactivity. That potential just hasn't reached the par that maybe it once could have been, but still at only 27, it's still there too. But this is not an easy comeback fight at all. So I do like this fight. This is kind of like the Malkoun and Allen fight in terms of like the styles of the fights, the way that they clash. Malkoun's a great wrestler. He'll lay on top.
It is.
He finishes at a higher clip, but I like it.
I like how you worded that there, because I wasn't really aware of kind of where Jake Matthews is at this point, and he's that guy had that potential, at least in people's mind. I mean, it's a bit like a Chase Hooper, where it's like people are so invested because of the youth and the talent and whatnot, and he's in a bit of a lull right now, not just because he's coming off a loss, but it's just been relatively not the most active few years for him. but maybe he's playing the long game, sustainability.
Yeah.
Just getting better in the gym, but only
Right.
fighting like once a year. And then now, as he's hitting his prime, it's going to be like go time to really go for it.
Yeah. Very true.
Now let's move on to the bet slip, Dom. The below average one at that, because reminder, we are not professional bettors. We are not here to give you betting advice. We're actually here to tell you what not to do.
Oh.
Everything we put on here, we're like, yeah, fade us, bitch. Do it. So
We got a big one this week too.
by the way, odds come from DraftKings Sportsbook per usual.
Shout
We're
out.
recording this on Wednesday, so these odds should not change too much, but we got a nice little list here. So Dominic, I think how we'll do this is we'll just go from the top down. I think that's the way we'll do this. And
Yeah, singles to parlays. Let's do it.
yeah, so we're starting with Andre Fialho money line, which is 2.5 units on this. That's because me and Dom are both putting money on this one. Dominic putting a unit on all of his, so any of these
Yep.
0.5s, these nasty little decimals on there, that's because of me. So 2.5 units. I put a unit and a half on this one. I'm testing out unit sizes, people, so we'll see what happens. But minus 145, Andre Fialho. I like Jake Matthews, like I said. But Fialho, he's 2-1 this year. He's riding a wave of momentum. I get it. Like, I kind of made fun of Dom for saying, well, he's the biggest story this year. I mean, come on. This ain't Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. It's Andre Fialho, Dom. But,
Right.
I mean, it's, I forgive Dom because, he lives in his bubble out there. In
True.
Colorado,
Very
so-
small.
But he is 2-1 this year, and there is a lot of excitement about him if you're a true fan that's really invested like we are. His last fight was in May, literally last month.
Yeah.
While Jake Matthews last fought in March of 2021
Yeah.
in a losing effort, and it was to Sean Brady. Yes, I know, Sean Brady, very good fighter. I think that there's a time I could still see Jake Matthews, eventually one day being a ranked fighter in this division, being a very competitive fighter in this division. I just think Fialho, I'm going with the momentum. I'm going with the guy that not only is the people who matter behind, like Dana White, but the fans seem to be behind him too. And he's just very confident in his capabilities. I'm riding with him, and I'm sure, Dominic, you feel very similar there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a copy and paste, right? It is that momentum, and that's what a lot of people are liking, us two included. I just think the power's there. He's a finisher. The only thing, right, can he fend off the takedowns? And if he gets down, what can we see? Because we haven't seen him get tested there. But if he can pass, I think he has more pass to victory. I'll put it that way in this fight.
The only concern is that Jake Matthews is big for
He's
this
big.
weight class.
Jake Matthews is big.
So, and Andre Fialho, not necessarily like the biggest guy in the division. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, next one, 2 units on Jack Della Maddalena. That's right, me and Dom both putting a unit down on him. He is minus 160 as it stands in his matchup with how's his first name?
Ramazan.
Emeev. So my reasoning for this, if you want to go into the statistics here, Jack has won 11 fights in a row. He's 11-2, so that tells you kind of how his career started and how it's going. It's going very well.
Yeah.
Won 11 fights in a row. He's 1-0 in the UFC. He does have that win on the Contender Series. One of the best fights ever in the Contender Series, an absolute war between him and Anglosa. While Emeev has been more quiet about his career, he is much more experienced. He's 5-2 in the UFC, which is definitely a solid record. I will say for Emeev, he's coming off a loss. He's, to me, it's the game of momentum here, Dom. I'm backing our guy Jack because I think the company is behind this guy. They're putting him in the opener of the pay-per-view. I think that he's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of fan support behind him. I think this is a big moment for him for sure. It's kind of what you said, sink or swim. I'll even say it's a bit of a crossroads fight here because I think a win here could send him to the moon.
Yep.
That's you, Jack. You mean,
I see what you did there.
But also a loss could maybe he'll never recover from that. Maybe he'll never be able to build back that kind of hype that maybe was once there. I like him to do it here, and I think it's going to be quite the showcase, even against a good opponent.
Copy and paste. No more said from me.
All right. Well, I'll let you take over for the next one so I can take a break. No, I'm just kidding. But you got a couple here, Dom, moneyline plays. Tell the people what's up.
Yeah, no, a Joanna champion, as she is also called, is back. We've already talked about it earlier on in the show. If you're watching this standalone on Friday, go back and check out our full breakdown of the fight from our podcast episode on Thursday. If you're listening to the podcast, then obviously you've already heard it. But Joanna's back, and I talked about it. I was a little surprised at how much value you can get on a former champion with 6 title defenses that barely lost to Zhang Weili in their first fight at plus 145. Noah, I'm saying that I'm willing to take the risk, but it doesn't feel like all too much of a risk to me. I think this is a winnable fight for Joanna. I think should she win this, she is on the right track to even get that title back. I'm riding with the former queen. I think it's going to be a great fight regardless of who wins. But again, at plus 145, I was all over it from the first day I saw it like 3 weeks ago, and it stuck with it now at plus 145. Oh, yeah, the next one's me too. Sorry. So this one is a little bit more risky, but I'm here for all the violence, baby. So Liang Na money line plus 130. She's 0-1 in the UFC. She's taken on Silvana Gomez Juarez, who is 0-2 in the UFC. I love that I'm putting money down twice on 2 fighters that are 0-3 combined in the UFC.
Boy. Well, thank God someone's got to win here. I would assume.
Yes. Right. Unless there's a draw, then I'll be pissed.
Oh.
Anyways, so my method here, or the method to my madness, Liang Na at plus 130. She is a very kill or be killed, another type of fighter. A few of those types of fighters on this card. Very aggressive, very fast-paced. She's only like, I think, 20. She's 20-something. Gomez Juarez is 37, so a big age difference here. And the biggest kicker, Liang Na starts very quick. Juarez does not, and she's lost 2 times in a row via first-round submission. Liang Na has a lot of submission wins, double-digit submission wins in her career. I think if she gets it done, I think she gets it done early. That plays into the parlay that I'm going to talk about later. But I think she gets her first UFC win. She maybe sends Gomez Juarez away from the UFC to her detriment, but I think the Asian gets it done here at plus 130 money line.
All right. Hand me the baton, Dom. I'm putting 1.5 on Jiri Prochazka by KO, TKO, or DQ. You know, never know.
Never know.
But, yeah, so definitely I'm picking sides here in the main event. I actually think I'm treating Glover's chances with more respect than a lot of people are. I think a lot of people think this main event result is kind of an inevitability. It's the same song and dance we've done with Glover for, 5 years now?
Yep.
Every time this guy is in a fight, in a main event, in a big fight, whatever it might be, people go, oh, he's going to get knocked the fuck out by whoever he's fighting. And usually that's not what happens. I mean, it started the Anthony Smith fight. I mean, look at what he did to our boy.
Yeah.
Knocking his teeth out. Oh, my God. I mean, he had Jason Herzog questioning his life choices. I mean, it was crazy.
Yes.
You look at what he did to the Polish Power. He neutralized it.
Yep.
Who neutralizes the Polish Power? I mean, it was just crazy. So I'm done disrespecting Glover Teixeira. I'm done overlooking him.
Kind of.
Except I really like Jiri Prochazka. And it's for the kind of same factors that I could see being a reason why he loses this fight, which is why it's such a dilemma, right? Jiri Prochazka is so unpredictable, so wild, but so fluid in the cage. He really, I got to give him credit for a lot of the mumbo jumbo that he speaks when he's talking about being a modern day samurai and everything's energy, right? Everything
Screaming at trees.
I was reading something about today. He's not a religion guy, but he believes that there's energy and faith and blah blah blah. I don't know. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this is interesting. You're kind of crazy, but that's cool. I fuck with it. But he fights very much like how he speaks. Like he fights with, like, it's almost like the wind is just kind of moving him through the cage. Like he He's always one step ahead. It seems like you look at like the Dominick Reyes fight. He got flash KO'd, but like look at the finishing sequence, or even against Volkan Oezdemir in his debut.
He flows a
like,
bit, you know.
He does. He flows through the cage, and really, when you just look at him and Glover and who they are at this point, I really want to say I'm not underestimating Glover, but realistically, Jiri should win this fight because he's the much younger, the much more athletic, has probably the more well-intact skill set if you're going about the power and the finesse that he puts behind his strikes. Yes, I do think, even though you're right, Dom, Glover, a high-level boxer, I do think the age has slowed him down a bit. Yes, he's still fighting at a very high level, but kind of to your point at the beginning of the show, those intangibles, I think, are why he's taking another step in his development and become a champion. I think his actual skill set is not as good as maybe it was a couple years ago. Yeah. But I do think he's still a very smart fighter. It's going to be a dogfight for sure for as long as it lasts. But Jiri, if he's going to do it, damn it, if he gets a fucking submission, he hasn't had a submission since 2014, by the way.
Oh, no.
So 25 of his 28 wins have been via KO TKO. I mean, come on. If I think there's a better chance that this fight starts, Glover Teixeira walks over to the other side of the cage and punts Jiri Prochazka in the balls, and there's a DQ win on my behalf, then Jiri Prochazka gets like a triangle choke or something. I mean, come on.
Those could be bold last words there.
Famous last words.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now I'm going to continue on. Half unit. Brendan Allen, Jacob Malkoun. I got this fight to go to distance. Now there might be some people going, Noah, what are you doing? You fucking idiot. Like, look at Brendan Allen's finishing rate. But guys, I'm telling you, Brendan Allen does. He finishes fights at a very high rate. When I saw the plus 150, I said I got to take a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm putting a half unit on it because you do have the plus 150. So like, even though I'm betting less and winning less, I'm still winning roughly what I would get if this was at like a minus 130 or something like that. You know. So when I look at this fight, Brendan Allen, only 5 decisions, but 2 of them have been in the UFC.
Yep.
Jacob Malkoun has 4 decisions in 6 fights and back-to-back wins via decision. If you look at Jacob Malkoun's only loss, it was UFC 254, Abu Dhabi, Khabib versus Gaethje. He was on the main card fighting Phil Hawes, an absolute beast of a man.
Yes.
And Phil Hawes, how would I describe what Phil Hawes did to Jacob Malkoun? I would describe... What's that game that kids play where like they hit the ball around the pole back and forth? It's like on a
what is that game?
Is that tetherball?
Tetherball, yeah.
Well, the ball was Jacob Malkoun's face and body, and there was like 10 Phil Halls around the pole. That's what happened. Phil Hawes tetherballed Jacob Malkoun into the ground in 16 seconds.
It was a tough debut. Yeah,
it was a tough debut, but he's bounced back in a big way, including getting a win over AJ Dobson, a fighter that we had the pleasure of meeting in Columbus, so OH to that. But here's really my point. Phil Hawes. What does Phil Hawes really have? Why did he get that fight over in 16 seconds? Well, he was super aggressive. He was very, obviously, he's an athletic beast, and he carries one-punch power, and he landed flush. Malkoun a little overwhelmed by the pressure, not ready for it. Brendan Allen does pressure. He does pressure well, but he does not carry that one-punch power like someone like Phil Hawes does. Yeah. Because of that, I'm not saying for this fight to go to distance that Malkoun has to win. The wet blanket, the guy who's going to look to grapple. What I do think, though, is that Brendan Allen's going to have a hard time finishing Malkoun because unless you're like a bull running straight at him and throwing fucking fisticuffs at him. Yeah. I think he's very shown to be a much smarter defensive fighter than we gave him credit in that debut. And he's much more resilient and able to kind of, even if he's getting hurt on the feet, I think he's going to clinch up very well. He's going to have a strength advantage, I'd even say. And because of that, I do think this fight goes the distance. And at plus 150, I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah, to sprinkle half a unit at plus 150, I think that's great odds there. And we both put a unit down on this. Noah, how did you come about wanting to? You switched it up last minute. You're like, you know what? I'm throwing a unit down. Explain to the people the thought process.
Yeah, I got to give credit to Dom for this one because he sent this to me, and I was like, holy shit. Like, the odds on this, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it was minus 175. Be careful with what I say here.
Easy.
Should I? Well, I got to play the vibes game here.
All right.
I would be more shocked at this
Here we go
fight.
again.
I would be more shocked at this fight going over 2.5 rounds than I was when Juliana Pena beat Amanda Nunes. I mean, I think when you have these two types of competitors who both just have such strong strengths but also have some glaring weaknesses, something's got to give. In that first round and that second round, someone's getting knocked the fuck out or someone's getting, put to sleep. I mean, just that's what it is. Or someone's getting punted in the balls, if I have anything to say about it.
Right.
But
as long as that happens under 2.5.
Yes. But, I mean, Dominick, you again, like I said, Prochazka hasn't been to he doesn't have a submission win since 2014. But I also think that the last time he went to a decision was probably more recent than that. But, I mean, it's still, it's been a long time. I mean, both his UFC wins have been via vicious knockout. And while Glover Teixeira, probably more decisions on his resume than Jiri, has the most finishes in light heavyweight history. So I just think that the recipe's there for this to be a banger and a fight that doesn't last very long.
Yeah, I 100% agree. At minus 175, I think that's honestly one of the more comfortable bets on the entire card.
I completely agree. I think it's my personal, if I had to make like a best bet, like a lot of people do, this would be my best bet for this card.
Yeah, it really does feel that way, guys. I mean, if you look at it, you think 2.5 rounds, that's half the fight. Will this fight end before the halfway point of a 5-round championship fight with these two guys, their types of styles? It's just the formula is there, I think, for this to hit. I think that's great value to be at under, at under 2-1. I think it's worth the risk for sure.
Yeah, so nice stuff there. I like that. But we got the parlays up next, and since I'm at the top, I'll go first. So some last-second changes with my parlay as well. Literally, I had put in a different parlay today when I was putting these bets in, and I had to go back, refund it my money, and change it. So here's what I originally had. Originally, it was a plus 108. The first two legs were the same. Weili, Joanna, over 1.5 rounds. Valentina, money line. But my third leg, I had put Jiri, money line.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might be asking, well, why didn't you put him via KO TKO like you did in your singles? Well, you fucking bitch. Maybe I did that because I'm worried that it would be the one time that he would get a fucking submission win in his career. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to double down on Jiri because I do feel confident in him. But once I saw this Teixeira Prochazka under 2.5 rounds, I said, I love that so much. I said, I'm doing it on the parlay too.
Yeah.
And because the odds are only minus 175, it gave me better odds on the parlay. So now it's a plus 118 rather than a plus 108. I mean, I already talked about the Teixeira Prochazka. Valentina, it's kind of like a safe one, right? It's a boring pick, but don't get me wrong. I think Taila Santos has more of a chance than a lot of these people that we've seen Valentina fight on her run. But I still think that it's just Valentina's just at such another level right now.
She's so good.
I just have a hard time seeing it. And I guess for that first leg, Weili, Joanna, if this was over 2.5, I would not be confident in it. But over 1.5, I do think that there's the chance that someone could get a finish here, which would be very interesting because I think most aren't expecting that.
Mm-hmm.
But I firmly believe we'll see this fight. I think Joanna's going to take a while to get going. And there's a chance Weili takes a while to get going because she's lost 2 in a row. and this is going to be a big match. And I think both women recognize. I mean, I don't think they want to go through what they did in the first fight again.
Oh no!
So that's reason one why this fight ain't going to be as good as the first one, because they're going to be like, I'm going to actually will run away from you this time. I'm not going to take those same punches. I don't want to be Mega Mind. No, thank you. So, over 1.5 rounds, I feel like that's pretty safe. It was like, I think by itself it was minus 500, that one. So,
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, Dominic, your parlays?
Yeah, so my parlay just ever so slightly out trickles. No, it's plus 118 for him, plus 120 for me, but I did go all money line on this one. So I did go with Brendan Allen. Closed in when we got this at minus 300 for Brendan. I am a bit nervous, right? Because Noah already talked about it, or in the breakdown we already talked about it. Malkoun, when he wins, you know what he does. He gets the takedowns and he holds people down. But in this fight, I don't think Allen, even if he gets taken down, I don't see him staying there, man. Even if it's like round one, chalk it up in the books, I think he can just, adjust mid-fight if that's the case. I think he has more past the victory. I think he can KO. I think he can sub. I think he can get the decision for Noah's sake in that half unit listed above. But I really like Brendan Allen. He's putting it together fight by fight. He's the bigger. There's going to be a really significant size difference in that fight as well. So be on the lookout for that. I love Brendan Allen in that one. I went Manel Kape with the second leg. He minus 225. He was minus 235 when we put this in. So that lowered the parlay originally from what I had. I think he gets another big win. I think he crashes into the top 10. Bontorin is a tough test. He's well-rounded, good jiu-jitsu. Manel Kape has an 80% takedown defense. I think if Bontorin doesn't get this fight to the ground, it's Kape. I think it's his fight to lose. I think he can win over the course of the distance. I think he can get an early finish. So I like Manel Kape in that one. I'm going back and forth between Kape and Kape. It's actually Kape. The third leg.
I think Kape is better. That's why I keep saying that.
Yeah. Third leg, the queen, Valentina. Me and Noah both have her on the money line. Listen, she's minus 630. She does help out the parlays a little bit, though, right? I mean, when it's odds like that, that's kind of your only option. Even I was originally going to do her by knockout or decision at minus 400, but she has a few submission wins in the UFC. I'm like, I'm not going to risk it. She's too good. I'm just taking her outright to win. I think she's one of the best fighters again in the UFC right now, one of the best we've ever seen. I think she gets it done. Title defense number 7. And then last but not least, this is a first for the bet slip / nosebleeds originally. This parlay to be determined because the first leg between Liang Na and Silvana Gomez Juarez fight does not go the distance. The odds are not available yet on DraftKings, so we can't place this play yet. But the reasoning behind it, it's pretty simple. Both of these one, first and foremost, again, kill or be killed, reckless abandon, especially on the side of Liang Na, as you heard in my discussion earlier for the single. She's got 24 professional fights. She's went the distance 1 time. Juarez has 14 professional fights. She's went the distance 3 times. All 3 of their combined UFC fights have been finishes in less than 2 full rounds. I think there's violence in this one.
You combine those fights and the decisions, and that's like a 10% decision rate. So.
10% decision rate. You don't see that a lot in women's mixed martial arts, by the way, especially at this weight class. I think that's violence. It's the second fight of the night. We're getting started early. That's violence written all over it. Then I just love this main event because I'm taking under 3.5 rounds for the parlay. It's minus 280. Honestly, that's still pretty great value too, if you ask me. If you want that extra round to get a parlay, minus 280, I'm going to be shocked if it goes more than 2.5. I'll be extremely shocked if that main event goes more than 3.5.
I'll be thrown off the balcony by that point.
Noah's going to be retired.
Dom's holding on for hope in that last round, and I'm like, all right, see you guys.
Yeah, Noah's just done. So I'm loving it. If I had to guess, guys, I do just want to say, again, that's minus 280. I'm thinking from what I'm seeing from a couple people that have talked about the Liang Na and Juarez one, it's going to close around like minus 230, minus 250. So I'd say that parlay, when you put them together, is going to be pretty close to even money. You guys will see, obviously, when our results are in after Saturday night. But that's it. That's the parlay for me there. I love that one. That's the violence parlay. So
dare I say that might have been some of the best betting discussion we've had in our rebranded kind of nosebleed, not nosebleed stuff going on
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Let's just hope they hit it now.
Yeah, let's go, baby.
Listen,
But,
the
look,
second quarter's been tough, but we got to pull out. We got to get us out of that shit. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you, Dom. I mean, we're cooked, but that's fine. I get it. Yeah.
No, like them scrambled eggs. Noah talked about earlier.
So let's get rid of that graphic because that poster is ugly.
It is a little weird.
We will talk just about the closing statements before we head out. God damn it! I forgot to fucking plug the social media again.
Do it.
I really no. You guys know where to follow us. I mean, it's
We'll remember for
at,
Monday.
at BAJ_MMA podcast, at NTBaker_, at DSleep14. If you don't know where to find us, I mean, I don't know, just fucking look us up. Like,
You can find us. There's no other Below Average Joe's podcast.
We're that big now. I mean, what are you talking about? You know?
That's right.
All jokes aside, it's time once again for closing statements. The way we end every show, a way for us to talk about anything relating to MMA or not, get anything off our chest as we head into the weekend for that MMA action. So, Dominic, what do you have for us on today's closing statements?
No, I've been on a roll with these lately. I've hit like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 in a row. But today, I don't think I've got anything, guys. I'm excited. We got another pay-per-view coming up, but that's it. Yeah.
Okay. I wish I could say the same, but I think it's time. I think it's time to address an elephant in the room.
Oh shit.
Not literally. There's no elephants here. Yeah.
Now, if the baby elephant would have came out in the, that would've been great.
So,
Should I be nervous?
yes, you should.
Oh shit.
So this is gonna be. How should I word this? This is gonna be a PSA. Okay.
Okay.
I think it's time for everybody to acknowledge. I think we all know this to be true.
Oh,
This is excluding Dom. Dom has not recognized this, but
this is not good
I
here.
think it's time for everybody to just say it out loud. GIFs aren't funny anymore. I think GIFs had their time in the sun. I mean, I remember when those GIFs on Twitter first popped up, man. Me and Dom were like seniors in high school. We were sending that shit back and forth like all the time. I mean,
Hamburine.
Hamburine. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Yeah.
I mean, great stuff. It had to run 2-3 years. I mean, GIFs were just the shit.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys, and I still will send a GIF every now and then, just for the love of the game, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, I can't. If I see a GIF of Michael Scott saying, "I'm ready to hurt again," I'm going to stab my fucking eyeballs out.
Don't do that.
If I see a GIF of Tom Cruise saying, "Show me the money," again,
I feel personally attacked. Is this an intervention?
I didn't know if I should say an intervention or PSA. I really meant to not only target the GIFs you use, but that just
But you
appears
are.
to be the way
You are.
it's going right now.
Yeah.
So, okay, the intervention part of this is that Dominic loves using GIFs.
Love them. Yeah.
And that's great, but he uses like the same 3.
I do
For every-
use my faves. You're right.
Like, how many times am I going to see the character from that one cop show saying pain?
Oh, yes.
You know,
Brooklyn
just-
Nine-Nine. Yes.
You know, I'm not going to lie, Dom. It is becoming physically painful when I see one of your 5 GIFs, especially like if I'm saying like, "Oh, I'm having a terrible night of betting," and you send me some like Michael Scott GIF about like, "Oh, I'm in so much pain right now." I'm like, "God damn it!" I said, I love you, Dom, but I think it's time for you to acknowledge you have a problem, and your problem is that you're old and washed up, and those jokes aren't funny anymore.
Noah, you're probably right. But in the great words of Nick Saban, and I'm going to insert the clip, I'm not going to do it, so quit asking.
I'm not going to. So quit asking.
Well,
But I will look into changing up the portfolio.
there we go. That's really what I need, because Dominic, as I've become older, and I notice these things, like I become so annoyed with when I get on. You can tell when someone's like not a good GIF user, like you, because you post the same ones, and I'm just like, oh my god, like this guy.
But
this
at
guy,
least they're top.
This guy, like this guy, he types in sad and he clicks the first fucking one like every time. I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, this is amateur, you know. We have to dig deep. You search. Just got to get creative. You know.
I mean, Hamburine is the perfect example. Let's be
It
honest.
is. It is.
It
No,
is.
I mean, who found that? I did. But
You
I mean,
did.
It's fine.
You did.
It's fine. It's
I
fine.
pissed myself
You
in my bed that night.
know, we all did. Now, I'm glad that we could have this talk, Dom.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to put out there what are your thoughts on GIF usage? When you see your friends do it, does it make you does it give you butterflies on the inside, or does it make you want to stab your eyeballs out? Let me know down below. There's no in between. There's no in between. It only makes me want to stab my eyeballs out when I'm like losing money and Dom's like over here sending Michael Scott gifts about like, no, God, please, no. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
You're responding in your head. You're like, yes, please stop. That's you to me.
So, I love Dom, but it needed to be said.
I can always appreciate a good sit down moment. I can.
All right. Well, a somber way to end our show.
I know.
But I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend, especially Dom. You know, I hope Dom enjoys them this weekend. You know,
Yes.
I've been hard on Dom from time to time. I outright
It's tough
shit
love.
I mean, proverbially speaking, we'll be recording these shows. You know, these episodes that you guys so enjoy, and you will see me literally pull my pants down and take a shit on Dom's face sometimes. That's a lot to have to take. If someone shit on my face, I'd be like, why did you do that? I mean, that was just, it's,
Yes.
so for Dom to just take it and keep on cooking shows what a professional he is.
Yeah.
And, you know, GIF usage aside, very lucky to have him here at the Below Average Joes. So with that being said, that's Dominick Cruz, the man with 99 problems, and GIF usage is one of them. And I'm Noah Baker.
This is
We're the Below Average Joes, and we'll see you guys on Monday.